Hey, I've got a question for you today. Are you missing the joy and the blessing of this season because you are so eager or anxious to get into the next one? That's what we want to talk about today, living life one season at a time. I'm Pastor Cary. This is the Growing in the Gospel YouTube channel, and I want you to join me in Psalm 121. We are really slow walking through this psalm, and we are looking today at verses 5 and 6, and really talk about in the next few minutes how to take life one season at a time. And I just want to almost like we're sitting down to share coffee together, or you just sat down with me and said, hey, talk to me about your journey. What is one thing you look back on and you wish you had done better? I'm only 55, and yet I am 55. So to some people, that's crazy old, and to some people, that's crazy young. But I know this, I've lived long enough to go through a lot of different seasons of life and a lot of different stages of life. And so I want to press into that thought for the next few minutes, and I hope you'll be blessed. So Psalm 121 is a psalm of ascent, or song of degrees. That means it's a song that the ancient Israelites would sing on their pilgrimage up to Jerusalem. It's an uphill journey from every direction. No matter how you're coming to Jerusalem, it's uphill. Jerusalem was the city of God. It was their home. It was where their hearts were most fully alive and most fully welcomed and most fully at rest. When they got to Jerusalem, all their cares were gone, and it was like Christmas morning for a week, a festive feast, a time of celebration, a time of jubilation, a time of enjoying God and enjoying His blessings. And so they wrote these songs, and they used these songs to sing and to let the journey pass and to teach their children about God and about the pilgrimage of life. And so as we go through these songs, we're discovering and considering and growing in the idea of our pilgrimage through life. You and I are on an uphill journey. We're on a pilgrimage with Jesus. Our destination is the city of God, where we'll lay down our journey and our cares, and we'll celebrate and feast and festivate, if that's a word, forever and ever in the presence of God in our final home. But right now, we're making that arduous uphill climb, and we're bringing those we love along with us. And so God gives us these songs to teach each other and these truths. I want to read it to you or with you. Again, it's 8 verses. I think it's 8 verses, and it's really meaningful. And then we'll jump into the verses we want to focus on today. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. And the Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. So we're focusing in today on verse 5. The Lord is thy keeper. Capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. When you see that, it's the name of God, Yahweh. It's personal. It's up close. It's intimate. It's the freedom you have to draw nigh to God and for Him to draw nigh to you. And this is the gospel. Only Jesus made that possible, right? So the Lord, Yahweh, is your God. But He's not only your God, He's not only demanding or worthy of your worship. He's not like some pagan god just demanding worship and issuing threats. He is your keeper. I love that word, your keeper. One translation reads it this way: the Lord Himself watches over you. Let's look up that word keeper for just a second, because that is just a great, great word. The word is shamar, and it means to hedge about or to guard, or generally just to protect or attend to. It is to be circumspect and to take heed. So you are that loved. You are kept that closely in the grace of God. He stands with you, walks with you, and he keeps you. Now, we read in the previous verse that he won't suffer your foot to be moved, so he plants you. He establishes every step, makes sure you don't slip along the journey. But he's your keeper. He's your guard. When you're sleeping and when you're walking, when you're camping and when you're hiking, when you're moving forward in the pilgrimage, he's keeping you. Isn't that a great promise? Isn't that a great hope? There's so many threats. There's so many things that come against us. There's so many fears and worries in this world and in life. But God says, I'm your keeper. I'm going to watch you. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to guard you all around you. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. What that's saying is he is your protective shade standing right beside you. The right hand, it's the strong side. It's usually, you see the word right hand in Scripture, it's a reference to strength. It's a reference to, most people are right-handed, so their right hand is their strong hand, right? So sitting at the right hand is a symbol of power. Being at your right hand is a symbol of loyalty, devotion. It's strength that's right there at your call, right there at your need, and standing there with you as not only your keeper, but your shade. I love that. Today, as I'm recording this video, this was a hot day in Connecticut, which I love. I love the 80-degree plus days. I could sit outside in it. I sit in the sun. But, I got in my car after it had been sitting in the sun for a while, and I have a sunroof, and it was open. The shade was open. And, man, that car must have been at least 100 degrees inside. And I got in that car, and I thought, man, it is hot in here. And part of it was because that shade was open on the sunroof. So I pushed the button to close that shade. What happens when you're out in the sun? You're baking, you're cooking, it gets intolerable. And where do you look? It's almost intuitive. It's almost instinctive. You go immediately to the closest shade. Every now and then I get out into a public place with my wife, maybe an outdoor shopping area or a park or something like that, and it's hot. And if she's taking her time or doing something and I'm standing waiting in the sunshine, I'm looking around immediately for shade. You know what God is saying? I am always with you. I am always your keeper. I am always your protector. I'm always your shelter. And you've always got shade right by you, right at your right hand. Hide in me. Get under me. Get close to me. Bring to me whatever's heating you up, whatever's got you under some form of oppression of some kind. Run into my shade and my shelter. I am your shelter. I am your refuge. So hang on to the thought. We're coming back to seasons. Verse 6 is there's kind of a double layered meaning here. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. So again, this is a desert pilgrimage. I don't know if you live in the desert. Some of you live in the desert. I used to live in the desert. And I can tell you this, the noonday sun, mid-afternoon, it can be 115 degrees. And by a few hours after sunset, 11, midnight, it can be 60 or 55 degrees or even colder. It was really hard living in the desert to know how to dress for the day because you'd wake up, it'd be chilly in the morning, but by 11, it could be 100 degrees. So if you wear a sweater, good luck. In fact, I hardly even owned a sweater when I lived in the desert. I hardly even owned a jacket, and if I wore a jacket, it was only for the morning or for the evening, and hardly ever during the day did you need a jacket. So the sun by day, the high sun, baking, cooking, heat, and it was a smiting kind of heat. It would leave you famished and thirsty and desperate for shade. But then to the equal opposite, you could be really cold in the night. And I'll tell you something else that happens in the desert is it gets windy. So it's not only cold, but it's blustery cold. And you know how that is. Cold winds it takes cold and like cubes it or something. It's like cold squared. It's like double the cold. All of a sudden, you're really even more cold because the wind is cutting through you. So the idea here is vulnerability to the elements, to the traveler, to those that are on the pilgrimage. But let me tell you the secondary idea and where I want to camp for the next few minutes. The idea of the sun rising and setting and rising and setting, and the moon rising and setting, and the cycles of the patterns of the sun and the moon really harkens to the idea of seasons. And so built into this verse is not only that God's got you every day and God's got you every night, but built into this is that God is with you through every season, through the hot seasons and the cold seasons, through the fruitful seasons and the barren seasons, through the abundant seasons and the blessed seasons, and through the lonely and the hard seasons. God knows the seasons of your life. And as the sun rises and the sun shines, and it might feel like a summer season, and then before you know it, the sun doesn't shine very long and the days are dark and the moon is out and it's colder and longer and grayer, and the days are shorter. And God is with you through the summer and through the fall and through the winter and through the spring. And we think of that in terms of the literal seasons, but I want to press into the life seasons, because these pilgrimages, that's how they happened. They happened during the seasons, particular months of the year, and particularly at the changing of the seasons. So in Jerusalem, you've got the early feast is Passover, and that's like March, early April, and then you have and that's when it's really starting to get warmer and bloom. Everything's green and blossoming, and you're planting and getting ready for the summer harvest. And then Pentecost was early summer, so it's hotter. I mean, Israel in June is a desert, but there's harvest, and that's the first fruits feast, giving the first fruits to God, but celebrating His provision. And then you have the Feast of Trumpets, together with the Festival of Tents, or the Feast of Tabernacles, which is the fall feast, which is the end of the harvest season. And so the Passover was the celebration of God's deliverance and God's covenant relationship. And then the summer, early summer, first fruits, was the celebration of God's provision again, and anticipating a summer of blessing. And then the late harvest, the last harvest, the Feast of Tabernacles, was the end of the harvest season, and kind of like coming into the down season, the winter. And so they're going to Jerusalem at all of these times. Each of these times they're heading up these hills, and each season has brought new challenges. Each season has said goodbye to a set of memories and said hello to a new set of challenges. And so these children and these families are literally growing up making this journey. And so the idea of growing up through the pilgrimage and through every stage and every season is built into these Psalms. And so early in the list of these Psalms of Ascent, God steps in and says, I'm keeping you through every season of life. And I'm going to be your refuge through every season of life. And I'm going to make sure that you're not overwhelmed, that the sun doesn't smite you on the bright and sunny seasons and the hot seasons. And I'm going to make sure that you're not overwhelmed by the darkness or the clouds or the wind or the cold during the alternate seasons. I'm going to walk with you. I'm your shade. I'm your guard. I'm your keeper. I'm your provider. What a great promise. And depending on where you are on the spectrum of life and where you are on the stages of life, I want to speak to young and old and in between, that God knows your season. And He's led you thus far, and He's going to lead you in this season, and He's going to lead you all the way to the city of God. He's going to get you home safely. He knows how to get you home. And maybe the later in the seasons of life that you are, in terms of the timeline, maybe the more years you have, the more you're anticipating the coming of Jesus, the rapture, and the new body, the new life, the new kingdom. I am too. But my fear for you today would be that whether you're young or middle-aged or elderly, that you miss this season for want of the next. I think that's a really good definition of discontent, is being in one season and wishing you were in the next. And when you're that way, that discontent is robbing you of the real joy and blessing of being in this season, right now, of living in the now. I'm looking for the not yet. I'm looking forward to the not yet. I'm looking forward to what's ahead. I'm loving this season. I'm looking forward to the next season. But there have been a lot of seasons in my life that I was so eager about the next season that I really let this one slip by. And I was thinking about the development of our church the other day, that every season I've been at Emmanuel now for 12 years, and every season has been arduous on one hand, but precious on the other. Every season has been full of challenges, full of maybe fears, full of things that are, I want to mess it up, I want to get it right. But then every season has had amazing blessings and rich relationships and profound joys and wonderful things to celebrate. And if I talk to younger pastors a lot, and a lot of times younger pastors really want their church to grow. In fact, I get worried about the ones that don't want it to grow because I think that's lethargy. There's this happy space of a holy kind of ambition. Like, I want to lead forward. I want God to be glorified. I want him to cause our church or our ministry or whatever to flourish, but I don't need it to. I can operate in contentment. I can find fullness and real joy in life and enjoyment in what God is doing right now in my life. He is enough, and this season right now is enough. And I just want to cherish right now, because right now is, if you think about it, my friend, and I'm not trying to be morbid, right now is all we really have. Tomorrow is a possibility. I'm talking about, this life. Tomorrow in the next life is a guarantee. Tomorrow in this life is just a potential. We don't have it yet. And so if we're spending all of our time mentally and emotionally and in anxiety and stress and distress trying to get into that next season, we're really going to devalue the now. And right now is really cool. It's really special. God wants to teach you some things now. He wants to walk with you now in this moment. He wants to bless you now. He wants you to enjoy him today. This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I'm not just going to anticipate or strive to get to the next season. I'm going to love today. And if you ask me, did you because our church is larger now, did you love pastoring a smaller church? I did. Could you pastor a smaller church again? I could. I want to say to the pastors of smaller churches, enjoy it, love it. Love what God is doing, however he's doing it, whatever size it is, whatever scale, whatever scope. Love what God is doing right now. And so I speak to you, whether you're young or old or in between, why don't you pause today? And while you're rushing ahead to get to that next stage, maybe you're young and you're moving into college. Maybe you're in college and you can't wait to get out. Maybe you're single and you can't wait to get married. Maybe you're married and can't wait to have kids. Maybe you are thirsting after the next job or the next promotion. Maybe you're looking for that next big purchase. You can't wait to be able to buy a house or a car or set yourself up in some way. Maybe you're anticipating something that's coming. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying don't let it dominate your psyche so that it drives you out of discontentment. I'm saying make sure you prioritize it. Make sure you put it in that category of maybe someday if the Lord will. And make sure it doesn't call your gaze and cause your heart to pant after what isn't yet at the expense of what is right now. If you have little children, they're only little for a breath, literally like for seconds, they're little. So just cherish it. If you have a young baby that is awake crying, pick it up and hold it and cherish it, because it's not that little baby or little boy or little girl is not going to be a baby very long. And one day you're going to miss those late nights where you could rock them and hold them. If you have teenagers, love them, enjoy them, make the most of the time, make great memories, play games, take vacations, throw the baseball, it goes by so fast. Make sure everything's not a fight. Make sure the schedule isn't so full of everything from recitals to school projects to baseball to soccer to every other kind of extracurricular thing that they never see you, or you never have downtime, or you never just enjoy each other. Make sure it's not all about headphones and being locked up in the bedroom and gaming and streaming entertainment. Make sure that there's connectivity. Make sure you spend time together. Build a friendship. Don't just lead by dictates and directives and shouting and do this and go here and sit down and do your homework and brush your teeth and go to bed and get up and get in the car and we got to go. I mean, you can do that for 10 years and you turn around and you don't even remember watching them grow up. You don't even remember making the memories or taking the pictures. Do some fun stuff. Plan it. Save for it. Make a way for it to happen. If you've got elementary age kids, catch your breath with them. Have some dinners at home and slow down. They don't need every extracurricular thing. They need you. If you are, if you're in college or you're starting out in your career, just take it one day at a time and grow up in God's grace and be okay. You can't rush 30 years of experience in 3 months. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the start. Enjoy your youth. Enjoy these days where you're getting your start. If you're middle-aged and you're starting into empty nesting, fall back in love with your spouse if you have one. If you're a grandparent, spend some time with the grandkids and make memories and talk to them and share the gospel with them and teach them about God. If you're up in years and a senior, take this moment to love those coming behind you and invest into them and teach them and pray for them and just reach behind and hand off your many years of wisdom and knowledge I'll tell you one thing you could do if you have a pastor, encourage him. Some of the biggest encouragers in my church, some of my greatest friends are those that are ahead of me on the journey. They're the ones who empathize the most and who know to pray for me the most. And so they are my army of prayer warriors. And oh my, do I love them and thank God for them. So I just wanted to visit with you for a minute today to say, hey, don't miss this season. There's joy, there's blessing, there's beauty, there's goodness in this season. You say, well, it's hard and dark and sad and discouraging. Maybe. And if that's the case, then it's only a season. Remember that. You're going to come out of it. But I will dare to say that even in the darkness, the presence of God, He's your keeper, He's your shade on your right hand, and He brings some warmth and some joy into those dark seasons. I've told you about my cancer journey, and that was a season for sure. It was a 1-year season and then a 2-year season of recovery. But God was so present and so active and so gracious and so merciful and so comforting through that season. I think for my whole family, I hope that they would testify the same. But don't miss this season, okay? Enjoy it. Take life one season at a time, because you're going to breathe, you're going to blink, and this season is going to be gone. And a part of you will miss it. So don't be so hungry for the next one that you miss this one. And if you're worried about this season or the next, you just remember, God's your keeper. He's standing by your right hand. He's going to make sure no season overwhelms you, and He's going to be there and help you be ready and navigate through every single one of them. I love you, my friends. I'm praying for you. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me. Love your comments. Share your questions. Maybe send the video to somebody. If you're new, hit subscribe and stick around and take the journey with us. And don't forget, the Done book is available, second edition, at inthegospel.com.